I can't wait to talk today about you have 4 tips for us on how we can maintain workouts while we're in the busy, hectic little kid years. So I can't wait to get into that conversation. But before we get there, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell me a little bit more about you and what it is that you do.
Absolutely. So I'm Amy. I am a mom of three. And about 7, almost 8 years ago, my sister and I started a business called Expecting and Empowered.
Yeah.
What happened was we went through pregnancy ourselves. Crystal's a physical therapist. At the time, I was a personal trainer. And we just realized, like, wow, this is actually really challenging to understand what to do. Even if you've worked out a lot or you have training, making the proper modifications and really keeping yourself healthy during that time and trying to avoid all the aches and pains that we hear about is actually pretty challenging. And then you move to postpartum and all of the sudden you're recovering from having the baby. And I had aches and pains in that period too. So we took a step back and we thought, I think that this could be more clear for women. We think that we could help them have a better experience. What we know is that if women are in physical pain, it really impacts their mental health and their experience. So for those of you that are familiar with Expecting and Empowered, nothing is off limits. I mean, today we just put out a reel about having sex again postpartum
Yeah.
or heavily pregnant, like what you need to know. We talk about incontinence. We talk about prolapse. We talk about everything under the sun because we just want women to feel well in their own bodies. And we have to have these conversations in order for that to happen.
Yeah, and I love how you guys aren't afraid to go there. I mean, just some of the topics. You have your birth stories on your podcast, which I absolutely love listening to people's birth stories. It makes me want to give birth again. I just feel like it is so empowering. But yeah, you talk about, as you said, prolapse, incontinence, healing birth trauma, which is also something that I feel like we need to dive deeper into. And then again, the strength and physical side of getting our workouts back, going back again. But let's dive into these 4 tips that you have for us. Like you said, well, why don't we go into the first one and then we'll keep talking.
Absolutely. So the first one that I came up with was to work out on the days that you have support. And for some of us, that can even mean on the weekends. So I think motherhood is this gigantic shift to our schedules. Sometimes we don't even give it as much credit as we should. It's kind of like a new season where you have to refigure out everything in your life truly. And so I think a lot of women, they get stuck thinking like, okay, I used to do Tuesday I did this, Wednesday I did this, Thursday I did this. And like I said, they went to the gym, they went to their yoga studio, they did all these things. And sometimes the time crunch of motherhood, sometimes also if you have a job, everything just gets really squished. So my sister and I really recommend to reconfigure what your workouts are going to look like. When we had really little kids, that meant that if we were in town on the weekend, our partners are more than willing to help us get our workouts in. We would specifically ask, can I work out at 10 a.m.? I love the weekend because you don't have to necessarily use the baby's nap time. Like sometimes I think that that's a great tip in itself. But on the weekend, maybe during that nap time, you want to read or you want to catch up on something else. Everything doesn't have to be quite as jam-packed. So we just say recalibrate. What used to work might not work anymore. When I had my babies, I was still a nurse at a hospital working 3 shifts a week. Those days, I really felt like I didn't have the capacity to work out. Like I wanted those to be my off days, not forcing my body to do more than it needed to do. So I would just shift. And then the days I was off of my nursing job, I would use those days and the weekend. So just take a step back. Think about what you need. I also went through phases where I would work out at like 5:15 in the morning. And when I was postpartum, that just wasn't going to happen. I had to get up with my babies and I really needed the sleep in order to feel like myself. So we are the type of company that we just really want overall wellness. We're not going to be like, get up at 5, you can do this, it's 1 hour of your day. Like, that's not what we encourage. Like, we encourage like understanding this is a different season, see where shifts can happen, and reprioritize when you're going to be able to work out.
Yeah, Steve Magnus, he was on the podcast a few years back, and he trained Olympic runners, and he was a runner himself, and he has a book called Do Hard Things. And I think absolutely, I am very pro do the hard thing, do the thing that not everyone else is doing. However, in the season of little kids, that might look a little bit different. And I think, yes, for me, even right now, my youngest is 4, he's almost 5, but I'm recognizing I try and work out at 6 a.m. Sometimes I'm like, no, you just need to sleep. Like, your body needs sleep. You're going to be better for it. Your workout tomorrow is going to be better for it. Maybe you can go on a walk today with your kids in nature. And so I think adapting, pivoting, not having that, hey, when I was in my 20s, this is what my workout looks like. It still should look like this now. Like, don't be unrealistic, because then I do think you fail not only physically, but mentally as well.
Yeah, I think we have a similar experience where I think a lot of women in our age category were like white knuckling their workouts, and they were like, if I don't do this, this, and this, I'm not going to get the result I want. And what we learn as we go through life and have some more experience is often if we're like absolutely forcing our bodies to do things that when rest would be the better choice that day, that doesn't even work out anyway. So it's like just learning to, yes, there's times to push yourself, but there's also times to listen to your body.
Mm-hmm. That's so funny that you said that I'm getting the results that I want, because I will be honest, this is like just a realization that I had right now. I've never obtained the results that I want with a workout. Like, if I'm being honest, if I have the aesthetic goal to look a certain way, whether that's abs or like a certain arm tone, I honestly have never really reached that point too, because I don't think that's necessarily real for my body or real in real life. Like, the women that we're seeing that are, I mean, maybe even someone like you that is doing this for a living and regularly doing this, like, maybe your body isn't attainable for women that aren't doing this. And I also just think that we have to give ourselves grace to say, like, what is me at a healthy weight? What does healthy look like for me? Because when I wasn't eating in my mid-20s, I had this emaciated look that wasn't healthy, and it wasn't necessarily my ideal either. Like, I wanted to have more muscle. So I just think that our minds play these games and we tell ourselves the wrong things. We're coming at it from the wrong perspective. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, that absolutely spoke to me so clearly. And the thing about it too that I would encourage women now is to really look at your health more multifaceted. Like, when we were growing up, like a lot weight-based, and now we're moving away from that. How do you feel when you wake up in the morning? Do you have energy to get throughout your day? Can you play with your kids? Do you have aches and pains? You know, do you have incontinence when you jump? There's things we can do for that. So I think you just have to look at the bigger picture. And a lot of us, when we were younger, we got really zoomed in.
For sure. There was, it was right after I had my third, because I had the abdominal separation diastasis. I think that's how you say it. But it was really bad because he was almost a 10-pound baby. So I started doing, there was a YouTuber, Sarah Therese, and she had these, I think it was 4 workouts, and it looked like nothing. When I watched the video, I'm like, oh, I can do that. But when I really tapped into feeling my core, by the end of that 5 minutes, I did that religiously for probably 4 months. And it's not completely back to normal, but those little things that I felt had no impact had a huge impact, because I was actually trying to target, and I know target training isn't necessarily a thing either, but again, I think it was so hard for me that was someone that grew up with all the health and fitness magazines or the Sweat app, or I'm trying to think of some of those Beachbody workouts that I've done. It didn't look like that, and yet it still benefited me. So I think that's, again, we're just talking about the mind, but I want to go into your second tip. So tell me what that one is.
Well, it actually goes along with exactly what we're talking about. Okay. And it's just this encouragement to shift your mindset and really to prioritize your well-being. Because I think something that moms get really backward, and I know when I was a first-time mom, this happened to me, is that we feel like taking time away is selfish and we're always in a rush. I think that when we become a mom, and I know author Molly Millwood said this, is our relationship with time is forever changed. When you are in the little kid season, you're always rushing around, whether it's to declutter and clean or to work out or to do whatever, you always feel like you have to be doing something. And sometimes when it's for yourself, like working out, that gets put on the back burner. But I want to try to help women shift their mindset and to understand some basic facts. So what we know is that working out really helps people's mental health, whether that's walking, or being outside, swimming, doing something like our workout app. It really matters to your mental health. And what we know is that the mom's mental health impacts the family more than anyone else's. It is so important that mom feels well. So instead of thinking that working out is selfish or that, you should be spending time with your kids instead, try to reframe and balance. Me feeling well really matters to my kids, to my family. One of the funny things about our workout app is that the feedback we get is a lot about mental health. And that's something that we didn't necessarily expect, but it makes perfect sense if you think about who we're working with. We are working with overwhelmed, tired moms. And what they realize is when they take care of themselves, they feel more like themselves. I know for me, it really impacts my patience level. I have 3 boys and the most chaotic house on the block. If I don't feel like I've reset myself, then I can't be the mom that I want to be. And I still don't get it perfect, but I get it a heck of a lot better if I feel like I'm cared for too. So when you're thinking that you might not have the time or that it's selfish, try to figure out a reframe that works well for your mind so that you can understand why this is actually important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess this is kind of blending these first 2 tips together, but I do know back when I had my first, I just absolutely love being in the woods. And so there were some hiking trails that I would either strap her to me or I would do the stroller. And even as she got a little bit older and wanted to walk, I'd be like, okay, mommy's going to let you walk for 10 minutes and then you're going to get in and I'm going to walk for the 20 much faster. And so it's just prioritizing myself, and it's not selfish to do that. It's not selfish. I don't want to say it's a compromise because she was 2 when she was walking with me, but I will give you some time because I want to be here for you. But then this is my time and you can look at a book, you can look at nature, or like you said, you could do it around nap time, but it was just like our morning outing because I did want to use the afternoon nap time specifically for other things. And so it's like, I'm just going to bring you along with me and make sure I prioritize this.
It's actually so cool to show her that we are prioritizing getting outside.
Yeah.
We're prioritizing moving our bodies. We're prioritizing spending time together. I think there's so many ways to do it. And women get really caught in thinking of like the ideal. But for me too, like I'd put my kids in a double stroller and I would go for a walk run with them, and we would stop at the park to give them a break. Like there's ways to fit it in that work for the whole family.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And again, if you have 8 hours to fill, it's a great way to fill some of that time with them, because I just feel like for some reason by Saturday, I am done parenting. I feel like Saturday is the hardest day for me because I've been filling Monday through Friday for 8 hours a day with things. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take an hour of this or 40 minutes of this time and use it on my workout. So I don't feel bad at all. What is your 3rd tip for us?
Okay, so I think this one is going to speak to your audience, but it's the idea that you are going to make yourself a little space to work out in. What we pride ourselves in is for our workout app, we made it minimal equipment. You do not need to have these gyms that we see on Instagram, these home gyms that have everything and more inside of them. You could have a few simple pieces of equipment and a mat, and you would be able to get a fantastic workout in. So in my house, it's honestly a very small space. We bought these workout mats, and I have my space. I have all of my stuff out and organized. So when I go down the stairs and I see that space, I know that I'm ready to work out. Like, it's this mental thing where I'm like, okay, here's my space. I have everything I need. It's super simple. Some of our employees that work at Expecting and Empowered, their houses are smaller and they work out in their dining room. They still have a setup that works for them where their stuff is a little bit out of the way. But then when it comes to workout time, they're able to quickly get it out and go. So I think what stops a lot of women is, say they're working out during nap time and they see a mess and they want to do that. One thing that we recommend is to try to do your movement first, because there's going to be other pockets and opportunities when the child's awake that you could maybe tidy up. But the idea that you would be able to reset and get your workout in a space that feels like you are actually getting some restorative break time is really important. So we just like to emphasize, you don't have to have this immaculate gym to be able to get a really, really effective workout in. You just need minimal equipment and a plan so that when you do have the window, you're ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my husband. That's what my husband does. He just used a kettlebell and body weight and was getting it done in our basement. He just does some YouTube video, but he really transformed when he was regularly doing it. It really did transform his body. And so I think we just have to remember, yes, maybe we do prefer the gym or the Pilates reformer or the spin bike, but again, if we can look at life as seasons, we just need to do what's best. So that leads us into our last and final tip that you have for us. And what is that one?
So this one we kind of alluded to before, but I think it's so important that I do want to revisit it. Tip number 4 is that this does not have to be all or nothing. I think a lot of us that were white knuckling our fitness experiences when we were younger, we come into motherhood and our workouts in our app, they're 30 minutes. Say a woman only gets 15 minutes in. The little celebration goes off for her because it's still 15 minutes. That is way better than 0 minutes. So we have to reframe this idea that we need to be able to finish our whole work out for an hour, do it perfectly. Like, that likely isn't going to happen. And if every time a kiddo wakes up earlier than you thought they were going to and they interrupt you, if every time that feels like a disappointment, that's going to be really hard to keep going and have a sustainable habit. I understand it's hard because you do want to be able to have your own time, and sometimes those interruptions are hard. But if more times than not, you can say, you know what? I still got 20 minutes in. Like, that is still something to celebrate. Or to your point, if your day is jammed and all it's going to be is an after dinner family walk, that's still something. So we are the company that is just like, you have to understand, like, this is a hard time to get workouts in. Mm-hmm. It's a hard time to get everything in. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to move your body and take care of your body, no matter what that looks like and no matter how long that is, it's really important. And then I like something you said before when you were talking about healing DR, and we have a core program inside of our app, and it is these small movements at first, and you are not going to see progress in 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But it's this idea that it is progress over perfection in motherhood. Recovering from babies, like, we cannot be in a rush. There is no timeline. There is no time where you need to fit back in your pants, or who knows if you ever will. Yeah. It's this idea of, like, we have to focus on, how is our body functioning? Are we caring for it? How do we feel? Make sure that you have other check-ins versus a weight or a pant size, because the truth of the matter is, no matter what you see on Instagram, for a lot of women, especially after maybe if they've had 2 or 3 babies, the progress is slower. You know, each time you have a pregnancy, your body is older. Each time, you know, you're working against the baby does do a lot to our bodies. That's just the truth of the matter. So having the expectation in the right place and set on healing is really, really important. So I know it's so hard, but try to catch yourself when you're thinking black and white. Try to catch yourself if you're trying to force progress. And then really just think about taking care of your body.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this is just one of my last tips that I wanted to mention earlier. Taking care of your body. I know that for me, if I offer my husband that time too, we both get that time. To me, I'm like, this is like brushing my teeth. Me getting movement in my day is like brushing my teeth. It's drinking water. It really is something that is, I don't want to say a non-negotiable, but it feels like that for me. Again, even if it's just a walk, even if it's just a little bit of movement. So I always want to offer that to my husband. So I feel like we both can help each other out in that way. And again, have those communications prior to the weekend when you're like, oh, I want to go out now. Maybe have it set up, and just so that you can make sure that it gets done. Because having that communication beforehand, I just think it's more likely to happen.
Oh yeah. My husband's like a complete type A. Like he needs to know what's happening before it happens. So he loves a huge heads up.
Yeah.
I'm more like willy-nilly. So like I do have to be more conscious of him. And then I think to your point, those of you that are in partnerships, like it is really inspiring if both partners are able to still care for themselves. I know I have some friends where their partners barely do anything, don't do anything. And that's a real sore spot in their marriage because, you know, for most of us, the goal is to stay married for a really long time. That partner's health is going to have a huge impact on our lives and the things that we're able to do. So I think if you can inspire each other, encourage each other, and both keep moving, it is truly beneficial to so many parts of your life.
Yeah, and even again, I know during COVID, we started family walks. We've kind of fallen off the wagon now because I guess that was 4 years ago. But we would just walk as a family. And my husband and I had just had our third baby. We both had put on probably like 20-something pounds. And again, those family walks just got us both into it. And that following summer, my husband did a triathlon. It was just like a motivating factor for him to just start moving his body. And again, I'm not saying that everyone's going to go do that, but it's just like, I guess it's like atomic habits. You don't know what the smaller habit will turn into.
Yeah, and you don't know that you miss it. Like a lot of people don't realize that they miss exercise. Exercise makes you sleep better. It improves your mood. It boosts your energy. A lot of people think like, oh man, I do not have the energy to work out. It's scientifically proven to boost energy instead of take energy from you. So there's all these benefits. And I feel like once people start moving, they understand why other people prioritize it so much. So if you've been stuck in a position where you haven't been moving as much, no worries. Just start again, make it a couple times a week, and momentum will take over. I had a friend once on my podcast, Kate Lemire, say, the hardest part is to get a ball rolling. Like truly to get a ball rolling, whether you're decluttering or whether you're working out, that's the hardest part. It seems so overwhelming. But once that ball is rolling, to keep it rolling is so much easier. So just keep that in mind, no matter what you want to tackle, like just getting started, that really is the hard part.
Oh, yeah. No, I was sitting on the couch, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I've been talking for months about getting back into my evening walking habit. And I was sitting there and I was like, crap, I really need to get back into this. And I was like, go now. So it was a little bit willy-nilly, but I went upstairs and I was like, Marty, can you watch the kids for a half hour while I go on my walk? And it was just like, I have to stop saying this, that I'm going to do this, and I have to just do it. And there was a tip I got from Mel Robbins' podcast, or maybe it was her Instagram account, but she said, if you're having a hard time getting up in the morning, when that alarm goes off, you go 1, 2, 3, go. And then you do it right then. Just do it. Just on that 3, go. You count down in your head and you just get up, and it feels so good when you actually just follow through with what you say you're going to do. And so I think I was just so sick of myself just continuing to complain or just saying, oh, I really benefited from that time. Why am I not doing it? It's like, just go do it. You need to actually just take that first step, that leap, and do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, where can listeners find more from you, Amy, and your sister? Where can they find your podcast, your app, all about you guys?
Yeah, so we are expecting and empowered everywhere. So our biggest platform is Instagram. You'll see a ton of free educational content. So important to us to just get women the information they need. Expectingandempowered.com has our app. We have a 7-day free trial, and we wanted to extend the code expecting25 to your listeners. That's the best discount you can get. We give it out on podcasts. Like, we just love podcast listeners. If you've made it this far, you deserve something. So expecting 25, and you can try the app for 7 days for free, because we want everyone to be smart with their money. Like, make sure it's something that you will use. We think you're going to love it, but give it a try to make sure.
Perfect. Well, as we wrap up the conversation, I'm going to ask you the 2 questions that I ask every guest. And the first one is, what's been a beneficial resource in your life that you want to share with the listeners?
Okay, the thing that came to my mind is the Aura Ring. So it's kind of like an Apple Watch. It sits on your finger and it tells you all of this health data. I think it's just so inspiring. Like, I know every night it's going to give me a sleep score. So it just kind of helps you to have healthy habits, because you don't want to see a low sleep score. You don't want to see a low, it tells you if you're stressed. It tells you if your cycle's coming. It tells you basically like everything. So it's kind of my little best friend in the health and wellness space.
Yes, I have one. I love it for the fertility. I've been tracking
Yeah.
my cycle on it, and it is so helpful because it knows when your temperature bumps and that you're ovulating. So, so helpful. And I feel like it's pretty accurate. I haven't gotten
Yeah.
pregnant, so
Yeah.
knock on wood. All right. Well, what is something you can't stop talking about?
So this is funny, because when I knew this question was coming, I was like, okay, the Olympics, magnesium, the Aura Ring, honestly, Love Island, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader documentary, and whether it is problematic or a good conversation starter. Like, I could
Oh.
go on so many subjects. Like, I have a zest for life, and I'm interested in so many things. So there's not much I couldn't talk about.
Yeah, no, I love all of those things. Let's see here. I haven't watched Love Island. I'm excited. Love is Blind. Do you watch Love is Blind?
So the last season I did watch, because it's almost like a cultural phenomenon. Like, that's
Yeah.
why I'm trying Love Island, is because it's like everyone's talking about it. So you kind of feel like you're missing out.
Yeah.
I also love, like, it's just fun as a mom to just have some like things where you can just check out, and it's just like kind of mindless. I think people knock that a lot, and I understand you have to balance your time, but sometimes it's just fun to have something that's like
Fluff,
interesting to
fluff.
watch.
Yeah, fluff and like yeah, meaningless. And I just say like it's inane, but I enjoy it. But Love is Blind is casting in Columbus, where I
Oh
live.
my
And
gosh.
I keep telling my cousin, I'm like, you have to go get casted for this show. But I'm hoping that regardless, I will know someone through the grapevine that I can just enjoy watching him. I'm super excited about that.
That is actually so exciting.
Yeah, I'm
Tell
like, I
your
can't wait to
cousin
see
we
it.
all want, is it a he or she?
Yeah.
We all want her on it.
Yeah, she is hesitant because I guess you have to get rid of well, you get rid of your phone the whole time that you're in the pods, which I think is 10 to 12 days. And then she said, you're not allowed to be seen with that person, I think, for 8 to 12 months. So they're going to film this fall and it's not going to be released for a year. And so she's like, I don't know if I actually made it through. And again, this is like
Yeah,
wishful
yeah.
thinking that she even made it
Yeah.
on. But she's like, I wouldn't be able to see that person out in public, or I could destroy my life because I could say something heinous and then it's going to be used against me forever. So I think she's a little bit shy, but yeah, I hope
Yeah,
someone goes on there.
you could get a bad edit. I think the thing about not being able to see them in public, I bet you
Yeah,
there's drawbacks, but I bet you it keeps things like exciting too.
I think so too.
Like, it's
I
a
think it would be kind of
secret, and you're
spicy.
so,
Yeah.
if you've ever done long distance, like, when you see that person, you're just like so happy, so in love. Like, it's just
Uh-huh.
48 hours where you don't have problems.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, I can't stop talking about that, but all the other things, like you said, with fluffiness, I think with like the political season among us, I just need to tune it out as well. Like, not to not be informed, but also
Yeah.
it's just like I get one vote. I get one vote, and I
Yeah.
can't do a lot about the other things. I can just continue to be a good mom to my kids. And if I'm bombarded with political news or current events, I'm not. So I'm like, I enjoy the Skinny Confidential podcast. I enjoy the Toast podcast. I
Yeah.
enjoy Love is Blind.
Everyone needs a few of those like buffering shows where you're
Yeah.
just like, you know what? This is what's going to feel good. I'll watch it when I'm walking on my treadmill. It makes the
Yeah.
time go so fast.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, this was a great conversation and fun to talk to you a little bit here at the end. So thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.